Imagine standing before the world's largest audience, feeling the weight of every eye on you, only to be brought down in a brutal second by shame, exposed to relentless laughter and harsh criticism. Now, imagine finding within yourself a strength no one saw, an invisible determination powerful enough to turn that humiliation into fuel for a triumphant comeback that will leave everyone breathless. This is the true story of the power of resilience, and what you're about to witness will prove that even in the darkest moments, the strength to rise again is stronger than any fall. The gym was filled with an almost palpable tension, as if time had slowed down to highlight every sound. The cold hum of fluorescent lights flickering over metal bars, the distant creak of wooden bleachers, and the mixed scent of chalk and sweat from athletes preparing. Over 3,000 people waited in reverent silence for the decisive moment. Hearts beat in unison, from eager families in the front rows to the muffled sounds of press cameras. You could feel the collective shiver, the kind of electricity that makes your whole body snap with anticipation. Under the spotlights, Mia Thompson stepped forward with light, steady steps. Every muscle contraction seemed to function as an internal timer, marking the perfect rhythm she had been training for since childhood. Her uniform gleamed under the lights. Her head held high, radiated confidence, and her gaze was fixed beyond the springboard. The first impulse gained speed. The second stride gave extra thrust, and in the third moment, she floated for a brief second in the air. Everything seemed to follow the exact choreography of days and nights of preparation. But then, an almost imperceptible slip compromised her trajectory. Mia's body tilted backward, her silhouette outlined against the gym ceiling, and the sharp sound of impact on the mat echoed like a merciless verdict. Smartphones, television cameras, and even drones captured every fraction of a second. The air vibrating under her weight, the abrupt swinging of her arms, and the disbelieving look of one witnessing a dream in free fall. In minutes, the perfect scene became a disconcerting fragment of defeat. Barely touching the ground, the videos were edited into loops, slowed down, and shared mercilessly with ironic captions. Within minutes, that few seconds surpassed 500,000 views. Cruel hashtags burst onto every feed. The gymnast who can't stick a landing. Biggest fall of the year. Anonymous comments threw laughing emojis like sharp stones. The tragedy that should have been private became a public spectacle. Mia's name echoed in message groups and seemed never to leave the mouths of strangers. At home, every notification was a digital dagger. Screenshots of jokes, satirical montages, venom expressed in emojis and likes. With every alert, Mia's chest tightened as if an iron key were strangling her self-esteem. The light from the cell phone reflected in her red eyes, and the silence of the apartment seemed only to amplify the distant laughter. She felt the floor give way beneath her feet, the sensation of being reduced to the worst moment of her life. Behind the weight of humiliation, however, a quiet voice resisted, a soft memory of her father repeating before every training, "It's when you fall that you feel the strength to rise." A phrase that once sounded generic now carried the urgency of a call. Mia recalled afternoons in the makeshift gym, the first jumps that made her laugh with freedom. The blow to the mat had buried more than her dreams. It had dug ground for a new route to take hold. And it is at this very moment, her heart still trembling but determination awakening, that our story truly begins. Mia is on the edge of deciding whether she will never set foot on that springboard again, or transform the very fall into the driving force of a rebirth. You may imagine the ending, but nothing prepares you for what comes next. If this opening moved you, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications so you won't miss the next chapter of this incredible journey of resilience and strength. The explosion of the video capturing Mia Thompson's fall on social media wasn't just a simple reaction. It was a digital storm that quickly turned into an avalanche of public humiliation. At that time, few were prepared to deal with the devastating power that going viral could have on one's entire life. What was a private moment of failure for Mia turned into the subject of ridicule and memes that spared no mercy. And worst of all, the worst was yet to come for her. As the video began to spread, notifications on her phone became a relentless torment. Every vibration was a cruel reminder of the exposure that went beyond the realm of sports and invaded her personal life. Anonymous comments, often loaded with cruelty, no longer judged Mia by her effort or talent, but by her mistake. Phrases like, "Look at the girl who doesn't know how to fall," or "She'll never make it back to the top," summarized the quick judgments that left no room for recovery or compassion. Social media, initially a source of pride for the recognition of her talent, turned into a battlefield where Mia became a constant target. Memes multiplied everywhere. Mocking montages reinvented her fall. Chat groups exchanged harsh provocations without filters. It was a global mockery, a cruel spectacle playing out before her eyes. Instant communication and the culture of sharing intensified the feeling of vulnerability. She couldn't hide. The judgment was ceaseless and ruthless. Beyond the staggering numbers of likes and shares, the deeper impact was happening in the silence of Mia's days and nights. The feeling of being watched, judged, and rejected was eating away at her self-esteem. Just looking at her reflection became an emotional torture. She saw not only a tired body, but the image of someone who seemed to have lost everything she had worked so hard to build. The emotional wound was deep and invisible to those watching only the social media show. The pressure wasn't limited to the virtual sphere. In everyday life, Mia felt the weight of changed glances from others. Close friends who once celebrated her company now showed inexplicable distance, perhaps afraid to get involved in a bigger drama, or unsure how to help. At school and the gym, the climate changed sharply. Conversations became hesitant, eyes averted, and warm smiles turned into timid, cautious expressions. This isolation became a constant companion. Even surrounded by people who loved her, Mia felt disconnected, as if an invisible barrier separated her from the world. Conversations that once flowed naturally now felt forced and superficial. The fear of judgment and shame fed a vicious cycle where every new interaction might expose her to more emotional pain. Silence became not just a defense mechanism, but a refuge. During these difficult days, her family became her safe harbor, though the anguish was shared in silence. Mia's parents struggled to find words that wouldn't worsen the situation, torn between comforting her and fearing excessive pressure. It was a delicate balance where every gesture and word carried enormous weight in her fragile emotional state. The nights grew long, with anxiety lurking, and tears quietly held back to avoid worrying those nearby. But despite the grim scenario, a seed of resistance began to grow within Mia. Amid the overwhelming weight of public judgment, a quiet voice insisted that this would not be the end of her story. She reflected on moments before the fall, on who she truly was, beyond the distorted image the internet showed. Gradually, between doubts and fears, the desire to reverse the narrative and prove that she could be stronger than her mistake gained ground. Loneliness and public humiliation, which could have been the end for many, became for Mia the drive to make a difficult but necessary choice: seek help and embark on a journey of rebirth. The path was tough and filled with internal and external challenges, but the determination was beginning to shine through, albeit still veiled by pain. At this point in the story, you may wonder, how does someone manage to resist when it feels like the world is collapsing? The answer, which we will reveal in the coming chapters, lies in the strength born from the deepest suffering. Stay with us to discover how Mia found, in the midst of the storm, the first lights that would guide her back to life. If this part of the story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Soon, Mia will meet a light in the darkness that will change everything. Don't miss it. In the darkest moments of her life, when everything seemed lost and hope was hiding in almost inaccessible corners of her soul, a light unexpectedly appeared. For Mia Thompson, whose path seemed marked by an irreversible fall and the shadow of public judgment, this light came in the form of someone who not only believed in her, but knew how to rekindle the flame that was about to be extinguished forever. It was in this meeting, almost by chance, that Mia found a mentor, a source of strength and wisdom amid the storm. The mentor came as a calm presence amidst the chaos, someone with experience and understanding, as well as scars from battles fought in the past. Greg Ramirez wasn't an ordinary coach. He carried the weight of having been an athlete who, like Mia, faced painful defeats, identity crises, and judgment from those who looked only at what was visible. Greg knew that true strength was not just in the body, but in the mind and heart, and he was determined to do whatever it took to help Mia find her way back. They met in an empty park, away from cameras and prying eyes. Maybe it was fate, or maybe chance, but Greg immediately sensed that Mia didn't need superficial advice or empty motivational words. What she needed was someone who understood the depth of her pain, who recognized her fear and shame, but believed fiercely in her potential to rise, not in spite of the fall, but because of it. In their first conversations, Mia was cautious. Her heart was still wounded, and vulnerability was a constant presence. But Greg, with patience and empathy, created a safe space where she could express her doubts, weaknesses, and fears without judgment. He didn't offer magic solutions, but invited her to look inside, confront her pain, and use it as fuel for rebuilding. This different approach from what Mia was used to, more human, less technical, was what connected her deeply to him. Over the following weeks, Greg acted as both an emotional guide and a practical coach. He helped Mia see that overcoming is not about erasing the past, but learning to live with it, turning scars into signs of struggle and growth. With breathing techniques, meditation, and mental exercises, he helped rebuild the fragile confidence, teaching that mental control is as vital as physical strength for anyone wanting to reach the top again. More than that, Greg encouraged Mia to reprogram her inner narrative. Instead of being the girl who fell, she could become the woman who rose, stronger and wiser. He introduced resilience not just as a nice word, but as a daily practice, a commitment to face every difficulty with courage. This shift in perspective was the foundation Mia needed to truly see a clearer horizon. The mentor also gave Mia something she didn't know she needed: emotional discipline. On days when discouragement tried to take over, Greg was there to remind her of her worth and strength. In moments of doubt, he guided her through exercises that fortified not only her body but her spirit. Slowly, Mia brought forth a renewed willpower, accompanied by a plan uniting mind and body in full preparation. But perhaps most important, Greg made Mia believe that no fall is final. Life, with all its twists, always leaves space for new beginnings. His role wasn't to be the hero, but the beacon illuminating Mia's path back to her true power. This meeting marked a turning point in Mia's journey, shifting her trajectory from humiliation to hope. Though the weight of shame remained, it now carried the seed of overcoming. What looked like an irreversible end turned into a new phase. Difficult, yes, but full of promises. And you, who follow this journey, might be wondering, what will Mia's next step be? How will she transform this new strength into real action? Stay with us to discover how, under the guidance of her mentor, she begins to take the first steps of her transformation, ready to confront not only her fears, but the world that judged her so quickly. If this story already moves you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to follow every chapter of Mia's journey of resilience and rebirth. What comes next will inspire you never to give up, even in the face of the toughest challenges. Don't miss it. In the weeks following her transformative meeting with Greg, Mia Thompson dove headfirst into a grueling and profound journey of rebuilding. Not just the body that had faltered in her fall, but especially the mind that had shut down in fear and doubt. Recovering her physical strength required effort. Healing her soul demanded an even quieter and more persistent courage. This chapter of her story, often invisible to outsiders, is where the true battle takes place. Away from the spotlight, in internal struggles fought alone against insecurities and ghosts. Each morning began with small challenges that might seem like simple routines to many, but were monumental victories for Mia. The first step was reconnecting with her body, rediscovering sensations that fear had clouded. With Greg's help, she returned to practices gentle as stretching and controlled motions that gradually rebuilt her. Confidence in every muscle and movement. Every twinge of pain came with a mental fight not to give up, to resist the negative thoughts threatening to overwhelm her. More difficult than the physical aspect was facing her inner doubts. What if I fail again? Am I still capable? How will people react if I try and fall short? These questions haunted Mia, stealing her sleep and making her question the value of all her efforts. There were days when fear seemed an insurmountable giant, a wall, hanging between her and the future she longed for. But even when everything seemed dark, an inner strength refused to let her quit. Greg wasn't just guiding her through the technical steps of recovery. He worked tirelessly to strengthen her emotionally. He introduced mindfulness and meditation practices, tools that helped Mia anchor herself in the present and observe anxious thoughts without judgment. Through constant dialogue, Greg helped her understand that doubts and fears are natural parts of growth, not signs of weakness. Learning to live with these emotions, feeling them without letting them control her, was a crucial step forward. One of the most delicate moments was when Mia confronted the mirror. Not just the physical mirror, but the mental image she held of herself. The reflection of who she was before the fall, and who she was now no longer matched. And accepting that difference required humility and patience. Greg encouraged her to write about her emotions, to name her feelings so they could be understood and worked through, not suppressed. Those journal pages became a confessional where Mia poured out her fears, achievements, progress, and setbacks, finding freedom in the act of writing. During this phase, Mia learned to celebrate the small wins, completing a simple routine without panic, getting through a difficult day without succumbing to sadness, reconnecting with friends. Each step, however small, was a stair toward full recovery. The journey was not linear, with highs and lows alternating like restless waves, but her steady will to succeed set the pace. Another vital part of her rebuilding was social reintegration. After near-total isolation, Mia began opening up to those who truly cared. Family, her mentor, and a few longtime friends who had stood by her side. This support network became an essential foundation, proving that the loneliness of pain can be shared and thus lightened. Gradually, Mia returned to social gatherings, smiled, without fear, and regained confidence in those who believed in her. Of course, the process was not without setbacks. There were moments when outside pressure, fear of judgment, and anxiety surged back, making Mia wonder if it was worth continuing. In those episodes, psychological work, breathing exercises, and Greg's steady presence were vital in preventing her from being overwhelmed by doubt. He constantly reminded her that every day is a battle, and perseverance builds the path to victory. On the practical side, Greg began introducing progressive exercises, blending technique and strength, encouraging Mia to revive her training habits with discipline and focus. The body that once seemed fragile began to respond, and a sense of control returned to her daily routine. Mia realized that although the road was long, every effort made her more prepared, not just physically, but spiritually. As the journey advanced, the combination of physical, emotional, and social rebuilding sparked a visible transformation. Mia was no longer the same girl who had fallen in that viral moment. The insecure child began to give way to a woman, conscious of her worth, ready to fight not just for a dream, but for her dignity. And it is this strength that will accompany her into the next challenges, laying the groundwork for a bigger journey ahead, where she will face not only her own limits, but an entire system that tried to define her by one moment of weakness. If this part of Mia's story inspires you, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. What comes next will show how Mia is ready to turn resilience into real action. Follow the next phase of this inspiring journey. After months immersed in the shadows of pain and recovery, Mia Thompson felt the moment had come to take a crucial step, transform the inner strength she had been nurturing into real, focused, and intense preparation. But this would not be the kind of training she knew before. Now, her workouts were a battle of mind against every lingering doubt in her heart. The place chosen for this journey was not an official gym, but an old abandoned warehouse on the city's edge, a space where Mia could find the silence needed to fully focus on herself. Far from cameras, crowds, and prying eyes, she could face her fears and her body with a raw honesty she'd never known. This was a sanctuary, a laboratory where every movement had a deeper purpose than just repeating technical routines. The first days felt disproportionate to the progress. Her body ached in ways beyond muscles. Her mind wove a web of hope and fear. There was no longer the hopeful enthusiasm of youth, when the future seemed a blank page. The pace was now guided by a new discipline, the discipline of conscious overcoming, step by step, with patience and respect for current limits. Greg was by her side, not as a conventional coach but as a thoughtful observer, an experienced guide who understood unseen challenges. He expected no miracles, knowing that progress would be built on sweat, tears, and perseverance. Through customized methods, he introduced exercises that combined strength, flexibility, and balance, always focused on reclaiming old movements and building a new foundation, stronger, steadier, and ready for pressure. Each repetition was a silent battle against the inner voice telling her she was no longer the same and perhaps couldn't return. This mental struggle took more time and effort than any physical routine Mia had faced before. Through good days and bad, she clung to Greg's words. "You're not competing against anyone but your fears." Over time, the old warehouse became a sanctuary of renewal. Amid bars, mats, and dusty mirrors, Mia crafted strategies to refine every detail. But what made that training unique was freedom. Without the constant weight of judgment, she dared to experiment, innovate, and fail, knowing every mistake was a lesson, not a failure. This freedom reignited her. Love for the sport, no longer seeking approval, but the joy of daily self-improvement. Her discipline was intense, yet gradual. Mia knew she could not return to competition as a wounded warrior, but must prepare as a wise one, resilient, patient, and balanced. This mindset spilled over into her daily habits. Nutrition, rest, meditation, and sleep became part of an integrated self-care system. She grasped that body, mind, and spirit are inseparable in true overcoming. Alongside solo training, Mia embraced detailed technical study. She reviewed old and current footage, identified weak spots, and reinvented movements with Greg's patient help. Her routine blended perfection with creativity, not just returning, but evolving. Progress was in small things: a cleaner jump, a softer landing, a more confident stance. Perhaps the biggest challenge ahead was mental, preparing for public exposure. Mia knew one day she would leave the warehouse, the safe shadow, and face a world that once judged her harshly. Preparing mentally for this return matched her physical conditioning. She worked daily on the image she would project, and most importantly, the story she would carry. A story of triumph, resilience, and pride. This secret training was more than a comeback plan. It was a preparation to challenge expectations, shake those who mocked her, and honor her love for gymnastics. Every drop of sweat in that dusty warehouse was a silent message. Mia was ready to write her own story on her terms. If this part of Mia's journey inspires you to face your own challenges boldly, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Mia's road to the official return is just beginning, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Here is the translation of Topic 7. Support and Rediscovery, the Strength of True Friends, into U.S. English. In the hardest moments of life, when doubts overshadow certainty, realizing who truly stands by your side can be a transformative strength. For Mia Thompson, withdrawn after the viral fall, this discovery was an essential pillar to her recovery. She knew rebuilding wasn't a solo path. Yet the surprise came through unexpected support and rediscovering bonds she had underestimated. During her initial isolation, Mia pulled away from almost everyone. Shame and fear of judgment made her avoid even those she loved most, as a way to shield herself from pain. Friends, teammates, family, and social circles became distant shadows, replaced by a heavy silence echoing in her own heart. Yet solitude, as protective as it was, soon became unbearable. Mia felt the need to reconnect. The first break in the isolation was a message from an old childhood friend, Laura, who reminded her of shared training afternoons long ago. Without judgment and with genuine simplicity, Laura sent a message. "I'm here. I always have been. You're not alone." That simple phrase sparked waves of hope slowly spreading through Mia, inviting her to cautiously open her doors. Again. Soon, other names appeared in her contacts. People important in easier times who quietly remained by her side. Every gesture, be it a message, visit, or call, was a reminder that true friendship is about presence, not just words. The boyfriend who understood her silence, the coach who never blamed the fall, teammates who kept their admiration intact, all showed her she was valued beyond the public spectacle. This renewed connection had a deep impact. For Mia, the concrete support of true friends was a shield far stronger than any iron armor she tried to wear alone. They balanced the deafening noise of social media and public judgment with the voice of reality, reminding her who she really was, her strength and value far beyond any momentary failure. This support didn't just emotionally bolster Mia, but also transformed her daily life. Games, laughter, and casual talks filled her days, replacing lonely walls with a hopeful atmosphere. Her friends saw not just a recovering athlete, but a whole person filled with stories, dreams, and potential. At the same time, this support helped Mia rediscover herself. With true friends beside her, she started to see her own qualities without the shadow of fear and criticism. She trusted her steps more, viewed her journey not as defeat, but growth and self-worth. Each encouraging word reinforced that life doesn't end with a fall, but with how we choose to rise. These connections were fertile ground for Mia's confidence and courage to face bigger challenges. Friends encouraged her to accept social invitations, reconnect with old teammates, and gradually share her path back to life. What seemed a lonely phase became a shared experience of learning and overcoming. True friends also played a crucial role in Mia's emotional preparation for returning to competition. They stood by her during tough workouts, offering words, care, and encouragement when strength flagged. They taught her victory isn't just what's seen in performance, but the interior strength to withstand any storm. Thus, support and rediscovering friendship's power became fundamental pillars that let Mia see she wasn't alone, that her circle was bigger than she realized, and that real victory lies also in accepting help. These bonds were more than balm for old wounds. They became the stable foundation on which she rebuilt her future. To you facing hard times, remember, true friends are beacons in the darkest nights, and strength to rise often begins in hands and hearts reaching out to help. This chapter shows how loneliness can be conquered by human connection, and together we're stronger than any challenge. If this story inspires you, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Next chapters will show Mia preparing for the decisive moment, ready to challenge the world again. Don't miss it. Would you like me to proceed with the final topic translation? Here is the translation of the last topic, the big return, preparing for the final twist. Into U.S. English. After months of intense physical, emotional, and mental preparation, Mia Thompson finally stands at the threshold of what everyone expected but few could imagine. The big return is not just about competition. It is the moment courage takes on its full form, and the painful past finds its rightful answer. It is the decisive chapter where the story of defeat and humiliation transforms into a breathtaking narrative of resilience and victory. In the quiet morning before her performance, Mia feels a whirlwind of emotions. Her heart pounds, not with fear, but with determination. Every secret training session, every silent tear, and every word of true friendship echoes within her, forming an unbreakable shield. She looks into the mirror and sees beyond her reflection. She sees a warrior who refused to give up, who turned humiliation into a living strength. Stepping onto the stage, the crowd that once mocked her now has a chance to witness the truth born from ashes. Every movement is executed with the precision of someone who has met the abyss and chosen to dance in the light of redemption. The audience holds its breath, time slows, and what once seemed a script of defeat turns into an unforgettable lesson in resilience. And when her routine concludes, silence breaks into applause. More than recognition, it is a tribute to human strength, to our ability to overcome and to rewrite our destiny. Mia doesn't return just as an athlete. She returns as a symbol of hope to everyone facing their own falls. This is the message we want to leave you with. No defeat is final. No humiliation is the last chapter. True victory is born from those who have courage to rise, fight, and turn every scar into proof of their resilience. If this story touched your heart and inspired your soul, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to continue following incredible journeys like Mia Thompson's. Every story invites us to believe, resist, and win. Thank you for being with us. Until the next chapter of real life, true overcoming, and victory that touches the heart.